So, it can sometimes be challenging to determine which constellations are more important for a 4-star character, or what the ideal stopping points are if you're specifically targeting them. Well, today I'm going to provide you with the best constellations for every 4-star character, available up to version 5.1. Whether you're just starting your adventure or looking to optimize your team, knowing which constellations to aim for can significantly impact your gameplay. I'll be going through the characters in alphabetical order, and will include timestamps for each character, though I won't spend too long on any particular one. Before we dive into the content, I'd like to take a moment to thank you for your support. If you've been enjoying my videos, please consider liking and subscribing, as your support means a lot and helps me continue creating great content for you all. Now, without further ado, let's get started. Amber. C4 provides an extra Baron Bunny charge, which is better for more pyro reactions and increases DPS if you use a Baron Bunny playstyle. However, that playstyle is not exactly recommended to maximize her overall utility. C6 is best as a burst support, as it increases movement speed and attack by 15% for 10 seconds. Barbara. C0 is more than fine. She doesn't need anything else. Her cons are generally not necessary, but C6 is kind of funny for the revive mechanic, though it's not exactly amazing because it only occurs every 15 minutes. Beidou. C2 is best because her burst discharges bounce 4 more times after the initial hit. This is best in multi-target scenarios, specifically with 2 enemies. 3 hits will be done on the primary target, and 2 will be on the secondary target, which is a big DPS increase in multi-target. Bennett. C1 is all you really need to allow him to be viable as a buffer, and it remedies the quality of life problem at C0 with his burst. C5 is notable for burst talent increase, which will increase the buffing and healing capabilities of Bennett, and C6 is good for the pyro infusion shenanigans he has, which can be a great DPS increase for a number of teams, plus a 15% pyro damage bonus. Candace. C6 is best for the off-field support version of Candace, which is her best version, as it provides instances of off-field hydro application that can be used for vaporized teams, hyper bloom, and more. C1 and C2 are good if you're building the less recommended on-field Candace, as it increases the duration of her burst hydro infusion and increases her HP, which all of her talents scale off of. Charlotte. C1 is amazing as it allows for continuous healing for the party members when they're not inside Charlotte's burst AoE. Definitely a nice quality of life change. C6 is notable for the coordinated attacks with opponents, allowing for better cryo application off-field, making her more useful for reactions. Chevreuse. C0 is perfectly fine for Chevreuse, as her Ascension passive is what provides the Electro and Pyro res shred, but C6 is a good upgrade to allow for more healing for the team and an extra 20% Pyro and Electro damage bonus on top of the Ascension passive effect. Chongyun. C2 is great as it provides a skill and burst cooldown reduction when you're within his skill circle. This applies to every character and not just Chongyun, effectively increasing team DPS by shortening the rotations of the team. Collei. C2 is great as it allows for her to provide extra dendro application for the team. The sprout effect from her Ascension 1 passive hits every 1.5 seconds, so it originally will deal 2 instances of dendro application. Thanks to the 3-second increase from an elemental reaction being triggered, it will deal 4 instances of dendro application. Diona. C6 is arguably her best constellation. The EM boost is a great support asset for teams with a lot of elemental reactions. C2 is notable for shield tankiness being increased as well, so if that's all you want, then C2 is fine to stop at. Dori. C4 is best if you're focusing on her as purely a healer, and it will increase the healing and ER of the character tethered to her genie if the criteria is met. C6 is her best constellation in order to provide more versatility for Dori. It allows her to have Electro Infusion on normal attacks, making her a solid Aggravate and Hyperbloom driver thanks to her role consolidation of both healer and on-fielder. Faruzan. C6 is the crux of her supportive capabilities. Before C6, she is pretty lackluster, but it allows her to provide a 40% Animo crit damage buff and helps mitigate energy recharge issues in the team she's best in. This is because her skill will activate more pressurized collapses, which in turn will generate more Animo particles for your Animo characters and will continually help shred Animo resistance through her Ascension 1 passive. Fischl. C6 is an incredible boost to her Electro application and overall DPS. Oz's uptime is increased by 2 seconds and will perform coordinated Electro attacks with the character on field. but this is only when they perform normal attacks, which is usually very good for a lot of characters such as Alhaitham and Spread, Sucrose and Taser, Kachina and Aggravate, Arlecchino and Overload, and a lot more. Freminet. C6 is an insanely good boost to DPS as it provides a 36% crit damage buff while triggering Frozen, Shatter, and Superconduct. Freminet's best teams include these reactions, so this will be in effect in the majority of cases. Melt will not provide this buff, so remember that when you use them with Pyro units. Gaming. C6 seems to be a trend for the last few 4 stars, but this constellation is the one to aim for, as it provides Gaming a massive crit rate and crit damage buff of 20% and 40% respectively. It also increases the radius of his plunges, making him better in AoE scenarios. Plunging is Gaming's only real source of damage, so this is very valuable. Gorou. Oh boy, another C6. This constellation is a major boost to his supportive capabilities, as it provides a 40% crit damage buff to Geo damage dealt by other members of the team. This boosts the damage of his teams by quite a significant amount, and is why he is so prominent in mono Geo teams. Kachina. Our newest 4-star as of 5.0. C2 is really useful for her utility as she can reset Turbo Twirly off field. This allows 100% uptime on her elemental skill, and in turn can continuously activate Scroll of the Hero of Cinder City when used. C4 and C6 are also notable for improving the defense of defense scalers, and by increasing Geo damage output whenever a shield is replaced or broken for any reason. Kachina will deal 200% of her defense as AoE Geo damage when any shield is broken or replaced, and this can include crystallized shields. Kaeya. C2 is extremely valuable when used in AoE scenarios, as it increases the duration of his burst when an opponent is defeated by up to a maximum of 15 seconds. In single target though, it's a bit useless. C6 is then his best after that since it refunds energy when his burst is casted and increases his raw damage and cryo application. Kaveh. Oh Kaveh. C6 is probably his best when used in teams outside of Nilo Bloom. The constellation allows him to unleash an effect that deals nearly 62% of Kaveh's attack as AoE Dendro damage and will explode every core within the area of effect every 3 seconds. This only happens during his normal, charge, and punch attacks during his burst. Nilou doesn't benefit from this because her bountiful core mechanic allows bloom cores to rupture pretty much instantly anyways. Kirara. C4 is the most notable constellation as it allows her to apply Dendro off-field 3 times after each skill use if the on-field character uses normal attacks. This allows her to provide solid Dendro application, which is most notably appreciated in Aggravate, Spread, and Bloom compositions. Kujou Sara. Infamously, Sara's C6 is by far her best to ensure she is valuable buffing unit for Electro characters, most notably for Raiden. Gaining a 60% crit damage increase when getting their attack increased by Sara's Feather is extremely valuable, but most effective when you can front load the damage on Raiden teams. Kuki Shinobu. C2 is the best stopping point as it increases Kuki's skill duration by 2 seconds. This allows her to have 100% skill uptime in her teams, increasing her particle generation and healing. This skill extension is most valuable in Hyperbloom teams, as it provides her with more instances of Hyperbloom triggers. Layla. C1 is all you really need to improve her effectiveness by a solid amount. It directly improves Layla's shield strength. It also generates a weaker shield for co-op teammates. C2 and C3 do help with ER and with increased shield strength, but aren't absolutely necessary. C6 is great for her own personal damage, but that's only if you're playing her as a damage unit in a mono cryo team of sorts. Lisa. C4 is the constellation to get, as her burst will unleash 1 to 3 lightning bolts during each attack. These lightning bolts improve her damage and electro application by a noticeable amount, and improves her reliability as a Hyper Bloom trigger, though Kuki and Raiden still reign supreme in that department. Lynette. All of Lynette's constellations provide some utility for her as an off-field unit. However, her C6 is the largest change to her kit, as it provides her with an Anemo infusion after using her skill for a short period of time. This allows her to be used as an Anemo DPS, or as a reaction driver with her normal attacks for archetypes such as Taser, Vaporize, and Hyperbloom. Mika. C6 is his best constellation. It provides buffs to physical damage, and Mika is designed to be a support for physical units such as Eula, Razor, and Freminet. He provides a 60% additional crit damage bonus to physical attacks and increases the number of detector stacks possible to accumulate. For those who are unaware, Detector Stacks will provide a 10% damage bonus to physical attacks when hit by Mika's skill. This can now stack up to 5 times with his C6 plus his Ascension 4 passive. Ningguang. All of Ningguang's constellations slowly improve her damage over time except for C1. C6 is definitely what you want to aim for if you're interested in using Ningguang to the fullest on field, as it is a significant increase in damage for her. By having 7 Star Jades after your burst, you can use a super powerful charge attack after your burst that will deal a ton of damage. Noelle. Noelle appreciates constellations a lot as well, but her C6 is the most substantial boost to her damage. Noelle's burst increases her attack by 50% of her defense stat. The burst duration also gets extended by 1 second for every enemy defeated, and this can stack up to 10 times. This allows her to excel even more in the on-field DPS role. Razor. His best constellation is his C4. It provides a defense shred of 15% for 7 seconds when he uses his skill, which will in turn increase the damage of the entire team. By using his tap skill often, this constellation effect can have perfect uptime and be a major asset to overall team DPS. Rosaria. C2 is her most important constellation. The duration of her burst is increased by 4 seconds, which provides her with 2 extra ticks of damage over time. It increases her DPS by quite a bit if you're using her as an off-field DPS. Having extended cryo application allows for more reactions, and that will always be beneficial. Sayu. C1 is actually Sayu's most useful, which is great since it's not too difficult to get. This allows her burst to simultaneously heal and attack, which improves her overall utility quite a bit. Her C6 is also notable as it allows you to build elemental mastery a lot more easily on her, since it will now contribute to increased healing and increased damage from her Muji Muji Daruma for every point of EM she has. Sethos. C6 helps him out quite a bit in DPS as it provides an additional shadow piercing shot that can be used at the start of your rotations. Because the ER drained from your charge shots will be refunded to you, this is why it can work out. It can only be triggered once every 15 seconds, so once per rotation at the beginning. It's still a nice way to increase his overall DPS, and you can even include the extra charge shot before his burst since the energy will be refunded. It's not exclusive to just the charge shot playstyle. Heizou. Heizou's C6 improves his crit rate and crit damage on a fully charged elemental skill by 16% and 32% respectively. This will improve his damage by quite a great amount, straight up. And there's not much more to it than that. Sucrose. C1 thankfully is all Sucrose really needs to shine. It provides her skill another charge, which can provide an additional instance of swirl without waiting for her skill or burst cooldown. This lowers her energy recharge requirements as well. Overall, it's quite useful. Thoma. C4 will be the largest quality of life change for Thoma, as I've gone over in my Thoma video. Check it out here if you're interested. This will significantly lower his ER requirements, making it much easier to build other stats instead, and making him more reliable and efficient in his role. He relies very heavily on his burst, so an ER reduction is very important for him. Xiangling. C4 is an absolute must for Xiangling to function well in most team comps. By increasing the duration of Pyronado by 40%, it's an important factor in her synergy with other units, her personal DPS, and overall team DPS. Definitely get it, it makes her a million times better. Xingqiu. C2 is a solid increase by giving him Hydro Res Shred and by extending the duration of his burst, but his C6 is the best constellation. Essentially on the 3rd Rain Sword strike, Xingqiu will fire 5 Rain Swords at once and will also regenerate 3 energy each time there are 5 Rain Sword hits. This increases Hydro application for him, damage, and lowers ER requirements. Xinyan. C2 is her best constellation as it provides a 100% crit rate for the physical damage aspects of her burst. Her C1 increases the attack speed of Xinyan's normal and charge attacks by 12% every 5 seconds. So when C2 allows you to crit 100% of the time, this effect will have 100% uptime. Additionally, C2 will create a level 3 shield for her when the burst is casted. Yanfei. C4 is notable for its ability to provide a solid shield for Yanfei when she bursts, but her best DPS increase is from her C6. This adds an extra Scarlet Seal to her kit, which will cause her charged attacks to consume no stamina while dealing as much damage as possible. As a charge attacker, Yanfei appreciates this improvement quite a bit. Yao Yao. A unit that's perfectly okay at C0, but she does have some useful cons. C1 is very nice for the improved 15% dendro damage bonus given to anyone within range of her radishes. This is most valuable in spread teams with characters like Alhaitham or Tighnari. A stamina restoration of 15 also occurs to those characters within the radish range, and this is useful for characters who like to dash or use charge attacks. C4 and C6 are notable as well, as C4 provides an EM buff when using her skill or burst, which is valuable in bloom compositions, and C6 improves her dendro AoE and overall healing potential. Yunjin. C3 is probably the best one to stop at when going for Yunjin constellations, as it's a large upgrade to her burst's effect, which are to provide a flat damage bonus for normal attacks across the team. C6 is notable as it provides an attack speed increase of 12% when you use her burst, which can in turn increase the overall team DPS. But C3 is just fine, so don't worry. Thanks for watching. I hope you found this guide helpful in deciding which constellations to prioritize for your 4-star characters. If you enjoyed the video, please give it a thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe for more Genshin Impact content. Let me know in the comments which characters you're planning to level up next. Take it easy, and have a good one.